While King Aegon III was the unquestioned power in Westeros, many observers at court noted that the king and his younger brother Prince Viserys grew into a good team. Aegon was in charge ultimately, there was no doubting this, and Viserys never looked to overstep his remit. The relationship worked so well because the prince made up for some of the qualities the king lacked, or had no interest in, namely dealing with his lords and the spectacles of court life, such as tourneys and feasts. One important thing to remember is that while Prince Viserys took a very active role in the governance of the realm and tirelessly worked to support his brother, he did so as a brother, not officially becoming Hand of the King until the later years of his brother's rule in 157 AC. Together, King Aegon and Prince Viserys ably and adaptedly dealt with the numerous remaining turmoil in the realm, while also trying to rebuild the ties that bound the damaged kingdom in the wake of the divisive Dance of the Dragons. But even the best of kings, the likes of Jaehaerys the Conciliator, faced a tough test to his rule. But it's in the fire of these challenges that the best kings emerge. One such incident that plagued the rule of King Aegon III was the troublesome appearance of several pretenders over the years claiming to be Prince Daeron the Daring, the youngest brother of King Aegon II, who was killed at the Second Battle of Tumbleton. The issue was Daeron's body was never found, with many suspecting it had been burned to nothing but ash. But this lack of a body would be the root of many issues, leaving the door open for unscrupulous men to make false claims. This proving each of these men claiming to be Daeron the Daring turned out to be more of a challenging task than it first appeared. Mainly because there were very few people left at court that knew Daeron's likeness well enough to conclusively say whether or not the pretenders could be the prince. However, every time the instance of a false prince arose, they were eventually conclusively shown to be an impostor beyond doubt. However, our records do not recall how these claims were dismissed so certainly, or the fates of the men claiming to be Daeron, but it is safe to assume that perhaps they spent the rest of their days in a prison cell, or maybe even lost their heads. Dragons had always been the heart of Targaryen power in Westeros, and many in the realm feared how secure Targaryen rule would be in the wake of the Dance of the Dragons without them. While several dragons did remain in the early years of King Aegon III's rule, Cannibal was still roaming wild. Silverwing had made her nest at Red Lake in the Reach, and of course there was the young hatchling Morning, the young dragon of Princess Rhaena. While many worried what the death of the dragons would bring, the king himself showed little care about the issue. There would be attempts to restore the Targaryen dragons several times over King Aegon's rule, that is, despite Aegon's deep-rooted fear of them. Eventually, King Aegon did begin to understand people's fears of what might happen without the beasts. But in truth, no one could blame Aegon for being hesitant after witnessing his mother being eaten alive by King Aegon II's Sunfire in the last days of the dance. He dreaded the sight of a dragon, had even less desire to ride upon one, but he was convinced eventually that they would dissuade those who sought to oppose him and help secure the rule of House Targaryen from being in any question. With the dragon keepers mostly dead, and the knowledge of how to hatch a dragon fading into the pages of history, at Prince Viserys' suggestion, the king sent away for 9 mages from Essos, who it was said possessed the knowledge needed to hatch the eggs remaining on Dragonstone. They attempted to use their arts to kindle a clutch of eggs, and while we do not have a record of how this was done, or what exactly occurred, we do know that the endeavour proved to be both a debacle and a failure, a theme that would plague any attempts at hatching dragon eggs for the rest of Targaryen history. Sadly for King Aegon III, despite what he did manage to achieve during his reign, his rule is remembered and defined by one event, one that gained him the title the Dragonbane, the death of the dragons. While the events of his regency filled the pages of history with all the plotting and scheming that happened, like the dying of the last dragons is what the rule of King Aegon III is remembered for. There were 4 dragons still living at the start of his reign: Silverwing, Morning, Sheepstealer and Cannibal. During the year 153 AC, the last of the Targaryen dragons died. While the fate of these dragons is not fully documented, and history loses track of the wild dragons, the ancient beasts, living fire from the volcanoes of old Valyria, were gone from the world, consigned to the pages of history. King Aegon III Targaryen would go by many titles in the dusty pages of the history books: the reign of the Broken King, Aegon the Unlucky, Aegon the Unhappy, Aegon the Dragonbane. the eldest son of Queen Rhaenyra and Prince Daemon Targaryen, ended with Aegon's untimely death at 36 years of age from consumption. Many of his subjects thought him far older, for his boyhood was cut too short. The melancholy king is not remembered fondly, and his legacy would pale before that of his sons.